Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Skye coming on to talk to you about the really exciting dance oppositions of Pluto and Mars in Cancer and Capricorn. Dancing around this anaretic degree of these signs, I wanted to come on with a little bit of time in advance to tell you about this energy, as I think we can already feel it starting to apply, though it won't be until the beginning of November that this is exact. And due to both of these planets going through retrograde cycles, Pluto having just gone direct in October, but Mars moving to retrograde in Cancer, we're going to get a few hits of exact oppositions happening subsequently on November 3rd, 2024, January 3rd, 2025, and April 26th, 2025. So this is going to be a transit that's going to be affecting, I would say, 8 or 9 months ahead, maybe a year ahead, with it having 3 exact hits over the next 6 months. Pluto, of course, being retrograde on the cusp of Capricorn and Aquarius, being one of the main impacts, one of the main macrocosmic forces in play over these last 4-ish years, okay? As Pluto transited, those later few degrees of Capricorn during 2020, and then building up towards the cusp in 21 and 22, and doing its retrograde, yes, here and now. So yes, in this video, I'm wanting to talk a little bit about both Mars in Cancer and anaretic Pluto in Capricorn individually. I'm also going to then talk about my general insights on the exact oppositions of these planets, as the second 2 oppositions will also be happening in the signs Leo and Aquarius, but the first one will be Cancer and Capricorn on November 3rd. And then we'll get more specific insights on these exact dates. So thank you all so much for being here. Be sure to hit the subscribe button below and turn on the bell notifications, as I am currently doing live premieres here on YouTube every Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Central, and 9 p.m. Eastern time. Also check below, as yes, you can now get free trials again on Patreon, where I post all of the signs every month, each month's insights, and I do weekly tea chats talking about my forecast for the week ahead and any relevant topics. So come check that out. That's linked below. And thank you all so much for being here on YouTube. Hit the like button and comment. We are getting through 2024 with some exciting time in live premieres. Okay, so let's start off talking about Mars and Cancer. Okay, and what that's been meaning. So we've had Mars transiting Cancer for a little while here now. And yes, it has been really bringing about a lot of points of unexpected shift for people. There have been a lot of turning points. There always are with Mars and Cancer. Of course, it's the debilitated placement of Mars. And it has extra lessons to teach us this time, because Mars will be, yes, going retrograde in Cancer. It's going to cross the cusp into Leo, where it will then retrograde, I think, December 6th back, and then go back into Cancer during its retrograde cycle until February of 2025. I'm going to put those exact dates in the description box below for you all, so you can see the exact dates for the Mars retrograde and the signs going on, because it's a little bit complicated. I mean, it's a complicated time to be an astrologer, isn't it? When you have every single planet deciding to do a fun little retrograde on every single cusp in the zodiac. That's an exaggeration, but yes, we've had the cusp of Capricorn and Aquarius being transited, Cancer and Leo, Pisces and Aries, almost, with Neptune that went retrograde at the anaretic degree of Pisces. So yeah, we're trying to get through it, and that's kind of the feeling with Mars and Cancer. We just have to try to get through it. Anyway, let's talk seriously about that. Enough of the Jupiter and Gemini retrograde joking around, but maybe we just have to do some of that too, also, to get through this time. Okay, so this cycle of Mars and Cancer is a time where outward forces are going inward. So the way that we've faced the external world, the way that we've faced problems, the way that we've faced our purpose, and any kind of also challenges is now going to turn inward. So we have to really see ourselves during this time, and we will see ourselves during this time, as we might start to see that, any type of tone that we've given another person is now a tone that we're giving ourselves. Mars is the archetypal masculine. So it's about the way that we direct energy outward into the external, the way that we move directly and deliberately. It's the way in which we channel the internal outward. So when Mars is in Cancer, and why it's debilitated in Cancer, it's debilitated because Cancer is the opposite. It's an inward force. It's the lunar. It's one of the archetypal feminine signs. So it just pulls or inverts that natal Mars energy away from the way in which it usually naturally channels. Now, what this can also mean is that things that we've needed to get out may lose channel during this time. So it's easy to have like a stress injury here. Say that you're like you have some type of exercise regimen that really channels your energy. Well, make sure that you really protect that, and make sure that you're like really stretching your body and really warming up and cooling down properly, because it's very easy during a Mars retrograde in Cancer to lose some kind of channel for energy and to have to deal with that energy in a more internal way. Also, there will be extra time needed for processing complex emotions here. Mars in Cancer is also, in a positive sense, if I can extract a positive from it, it definitely makes us look at the root of the problem. It makes us see why we have all this excess energy that needs channeled, why we have things like anger or pain or sadness that we try to get out in more of an outward direct way. Like, why is that there? And can we adjust the situations in our life that are perpetuating cycles of us feeling full of negative energy or fear or anger or whatever it is? So this is definitely a time of analyzing cause rather than seeking effect. Okay, meaning like we need to see whether the chicken or the egg is happening here. Like, what is the source of our anger? What is the source of our sadness? Why do we feel fearful about things? What choices are we making every day that perpetuate these fearful cycles? What people in our lives are triggering it? Is it the people, or is it our association with the people? Where is it coming from? As Mars in Cancer actually does augment intuitive abilities, but they can be a bit messy sometimes, as it's kind of like a level of the intuition that's not as conscious. With the sign of Cancer, it's like gut level intuitions. Also, like, definitely if you have anything relating to digestive issues or sensitive problems or sensitive digestive, whether it's in the stomach, or I also think of digestion happening in the brain too, like through processes, thinking. Also, the brain has certain processes of cleansing itself with like the neurotransmitters during sleep, for example. Mars in Cancer can sometimes indicate insomnia or disrupted sleep. It can also indicate any type of digestive issue in various parts of the body, but it's not just stomach level digestion, like also in the sense of like, the filtration of the body, like the kidneys or the liver. Okay, the endocrine system to a lesser degree, but that could also be indicated as something to look at here with the lymph, the endocrine, anything that's like some type of movement throughout the body, which is a lot of the body. Okay, blood pressure, heart, circulation. Mars in Cancer is a time where we have to really pay attention to our health, because a healthy Mars energy has the physical body and the physical stamina to be expressing outwardly. But when it goes into an inward-facing sign like Cancer, like Scorpio, or really any of the water or earth signs, but especially Cancer, it kind of signals that maybe something is not processing right, something is not digesting right, something is too stagnant to make outward expression as rewarding. So we have to maybe address that during this time, addressing health matters, making sure that you have the right environment to process emotions, food, whatever, water, whatever it is that your body needs to process. May need extra time during this entire transit, really from about September, I would say, until like April of 2025. I believe that that's the final time that Mars goes into Leo after all of these retrogrades. One can also see that during this period of time, this like September, October through April of 2025, that you have to coordinate some type of journey or some type of life strategy to better process or to better cleanse, to better purify and cause healthy flow to be more possible in your body. So like it can be kind of hard, as you know, now would be maybe a good time to segue into the anaretic Pluto in Capricorn portion. That energy, and why we have an opposition here as well, and the sort of contradicting force, is this perpetual, stability-oriented, routine-oriented, long-running, habitual structure, cementing energy of Pluto in Capricorn at the anaretic degree. So these two energies are going to be operating as a certain polarity, as a certain axis of choices in our lives. And we get to kind of like maybe have a sliding scale here. You know, do I move more into this Mars and Cancer energy, like maybe taking a health sabbatical or really making changes in my life, really seeing the internal problems and addressing the degree to which healthy processing has been possible, and then changing based on the understanding that I have of that? Am I more on that side of the axis, or am I more on the continuity, stability, repetitive, maintaining or perpetuating some type of habitual structure? Am I on that side of the axis? Okay. So we'll talk about that momentarily. But yeah, Pluto in 29 Capricorn, first of all, it will only be there until November 19th, I think it is. Though it is more so towards February, as I've been channeling through in a lot of my previous videos. I really feel that Pluto won't really firmly be into Aquarius until February. Even though it goes into 0 Aquarius in November, we really want to see it getting to like that 1st degree and 2nd degree, and really even 4 or 5 degrees. So this is like this time next year. Before it's really imbued with all of that Aquarian energy. Of course, 0 degrees of any sign is also considered 30 degrees of the previous sign. So 0 degrees of any sign is not the change that we might think that it is. That's why I say in a lot of my videos more like February, because that's when we'll get like, you know, 1 degree solidly, or Pluto moving further into Aquarius, at least right off the 0 part of the sign. There is going to be something for sure from now until about the calendar new year, so like October until January, that I feel has some type of perpetuating, continuity-focused, stability-oriented structure to it. Pluto in Capricorn at the 29th degree is very much focused on unfinished business. It's about reaching that full picture scenario. It's about, you know, the work of the last 15 or 16 years, 2008 to 2024. That's the timeline that Pluto has been in Capricorn during. It's about seeing that that is getting tied up with the right kind of bow, that is being packaged correctly, that we're really taking what we've earned or gained from that period of time and applying it, investing it, showing it, expressing it properly. But Mars in Cancer on this opposition point is snagging that up a little bit. So is Jupiter in Gemini square Saturn in Pisces. You know, that's not exact now, but that's been something that's been in effect during this final time of Pluto and Capricorn. So the outcome of that is kind of like people are already over it. Like people are over these old stories. People are wanting the new frontiers. They're wanting these new paths. They're wanting some kind of major resolution of something that maybe hasn't functioned well during these last 15 or 16 years. And it's okay maybe with a lot of the structures going away, or a lot of the structures not being relevant anymore, just to be out of that perpetual cycle. At the same time, there could be an underestimation of how difficult it is to uproot what 29 Pluto and Capricorn represents. So you can see a bit of underestimation during this time as well of people who might be more associated with that energy. So these are people who have been making like very responsible decisions over the last 15 years. These are people who have some type of like long-running familial, political, or resource-oriented structure that they've been like really investing into for 15 or 16 years, or that they've been constantly focused on. You know, this could feel very burned out at this point in time, or this could also feel kind of like elderly or not super resilient. But that could also like not quite be right, in the sense that sometimes people don't see what's beneath the surface of some type of structure. So like, for example, a huge tree, you know, you don't know what the roots are like underground, and you might just associate what's above the ground. This could be happening during this time as well. Careful with any types of underestimation. Part of the 29 Pluto and Capricorn, especially if you have that transiting into your chart in any way, there's going to be something about the current situation that is not as delicate or fragile as it looks, or something that maybe has a lot beneath the surface. I've got to be honest, 29 Capricorn, the anaretic degree of the sign Capricorn, is one of the most... I don't really know what type of language to attach to it, but I think it's one of the most powerful degrees of the zodiac, honestly, because at least from the earth plane perspective, it's the most mature earth sign. It's really the final human point of the zodiac, because I consider the signs Aquarius and Pisces to be sort of outside of the human condition. And it's also so significant that Neptune is transiting sextile Pluto at the final degree of the zodiac. So just those two things alone, even though we've got a lot kind of distracting us on the superficial level with Jupiter and Gemini, Uranus and Taurus, and all of that energy around that part of the zodiac, something beneath the surface is much more powerful, long-lasting, resilient, and connected in a less than obvious way than people realize. But because they don't realize it, they may go against certain structures, or they may also take for granted certain structures, as they may not understand how it's all connected or how it's all associated. So a wonderful example of this is being against some kind of force that you consider overbearing, but not realizing that that force kind of perpetuates or enables a lot of your current lifestyle. So, we might be very quick here to take part in some type of groupthink or some type of ideation that is oppositional, not realizing that we oppose ourselves and a lot of what our lives are actually integrated by. So people can unknowingly or unwittingly be against the fabric of their own lives by taking certain oppositional stances here. This is quite an important consideration when we go to maybe question the integrity of our lives, or we go to question who, why, where we are, what we are. We have to be masterful and willing to recognize the connected nature of all of this before we start making vast changes. It's easy to throw the baby out with the bathwater, per se. It's easy to cut things off at the knees here and have good intentions at the same time, but that doesn't matter if we lose something that is actually maintaining some type of very imperative fabric for our own viability as people. So it's there's maybe a disconnect at a conscious psychological level of what makes my day, my job, my life, my current paradigm viable, and not kind of understanding that we need to perhaps face some of these things with more regard or more honor, as there's this sort of theme of honor, heritage, history, and also multi-generational trajectories that are just so over a lot of people's heads, or so out of the collective consciousness right now, but it doesn't mean that they're not functioning. So we can just get too fast-paced here, really, especially with Mars coming to oppose Pluto. As I also feel that there is some type of final thrust coming with the final 29-degree Pluto and Capricorn, some type of imminent conclusion, and also considering the gravity of certain purpose in your life, certain purposes. Gravity, gravitas, that's also what I think of with this degree of Capricorn, especially if it's transiting your chart in some way. What are you attracted to? What purposes, what ideas, what visions, or long-rooted trajectories can you actually maybe take advantage of in a positive and healthy way, to actually have more gravity of purpose in your life, as there should be an abundance of that here, as we recognize at this high point of this transit, we definitely have come to an apex of sorts. We've climbed to Mount Everest of sorts during this last 15 years, and there should be some type of view or ability to see the forest for the trees now at this point, and kind of be able to understand how to move forward. But in some cases, it's kind of hard to go higher than this too for some people. It depends on the person. It depends on the age. It depends on how long they've been, building or contributing or investing in something. For some people, it's hard to go higher than this. For other people, they have to take this expanse that is currently in front of them and actually choose to decide how to move forward instead of just kind of like existing in this expanse, if that makes sense. Now, talking a little bit more about the opposition itself of Mars and Pluto, and this will be happening 3 times. I'll talk more about those dates in a second, but I just want to talk generally about the opposition transits and what this kind of imbues in people's lives. Well, there's definitely a questioning, okay, with this opposition, again, with this sort of like gravitational axis that's being generated by Mars in Cancer opposite Pluto in Capricorn. Also the fact that 2 of the oppositions are happening in Leo and Aquarius. So they oppose each other on both sides of the cusp. It's like very powerful and overwhelming. So overwhelm, first of all, I will say for a lot of people is a big thing with these opposition transits. It's just too much for me to think about. I can't take all of this into account. This is too much of an empire, or this is too much moving parts for me to ever be able to like really wrap my mind around. I just have to kind of give it to God, is the most dominant psychological perspective of this opposition, first and foremost. There are some masterful sage-like people who can maybe comprehend all of the moving components, but good luck to them also being able to make predictable adjustments or thinking that they understand the cause and effect of it all. Things are very complicated here, in essence. And also there's a lot of power and gravity in unexpected places, also taking into account this feeling of roots, or this feeling of like the tip of the iceberg being visible, but beneath it not. It makes it really hard to strategize or to really predict around any of this, because you can like move things around, or you can move pieces on the board, but not knowing certain things, or not knowing some of the gravity points, or not knowing what is beneath the surface in certain things or certain people or whatever it is. This leads a lot of the outcomes to be unpredictable, and that also supports the idea of having like Uranus involved in this too, as it got quite late in Taurus, so it would be trine Pluto and Capricorn, at least at the beginning of this transit, and then also it would be sextile Mars as well. Is perhaps non-intervention the best path here? Is it better to just let things go? Maybe. But it feels also that people who have a strategic tendency in their life where they're trying to like climb to the next level or something, there's going to have to be some type of movement or some type of like working with these present energies in order to proceed. Some type of puzzle solving is what I mean, could be here. So as I was saying, a questioning though as well. Questioning of the emotional relevance, Mars in Cancer, as opposed to the energetic sustainability of gravitational purposes, Pluto and Capricorn. So Mars in Cancer is going to maybe be bringing in a feeling of like, this path is not emotionally sustainable to me, or it's not financially sustainable, or it's going to have to change in some way. Industries changing. Overblown economic issues, unsustainable economic issues, outputs or productivity spectrums that are just like not going to be possible in the future, or not sustainable, or just sort of declining morale, or not making people feel good about what they're doing. Definitely issues with jobs, issues with labor, is already something I've been predicting a lot on my channel. Strikes, unwillingness to work certain jobs because of this heaviness. There's such a heavy, dense feeling with these oppositions about like why I'm doing these repetitive things in my life, why I'm making money this way, why the heck would I have ever considered this? There's a lot of these feelings, and then the overwhelm and the not knowing how to move forward. It's like a really big hit to morale around working and morale around economic productivity. And I feel that because of this, there could be like a decrease in overall productivity, or there could be definitely, as we already can all attest to, a hit in quality and certain demeaning or of resources and anything that is produced. So I just feel that the emotional heaviness and the emotional density will probably increase during this transit. And it's also an accident indication, right? Any type of Pluto-Mars conjunction, any type of opposition, square, or conjunction of Pluto and Mars especially, can make things more accident prone too. So definitely take that into account as you're navigating this transit. Like, be sure to keep safe and be careful about taking on certain risks, especially financial risks, economic risks, or anything relating to that which is like industrial or mechanized. So yeah, cars, okay, careful about keeping your cars safe. I also think of cars with the sign of Cancer because they're kind of like a shell, something that people like move around in. So, you know, keeping your car maintained well, making sure that, you know, tires are good, or anything that relates to the car functioning well, anything also that relates to the house functioning well, accidents in the house, Mars and Cancer, and then also Pluto and Capricorn. It deals with housing too. So there's probably maybe going to be some type of emergency housing situation at a macroeconomic level. So that's already kind of been percolating for a long time. There could be some type of crisis in the housing market or some kind of frustration. It's more of a frustration, okay? It's not so much a crisis because it's too muted by these water and earth energies of Cancer and Capricorn. It's more of like a percolating frustration or a hit to morale, as I'm talking about with like labor and, you know, potential strikes and economic hardships. It's like things can just boil over with frustration, or something just becomes like defeating to people. So like, I don't mean to sound negative speaking about it, but I just see it as well. Like, people feel so defeated by their rent payments, or people feel that their jobs are sort of like a channel from one person to another. Like, for example, you get paid by your job, then all that money goes to the landlord, and it's kind of like, well, was any of that ever mine? There's a lot of that kind of like morale. It's more of a morale issue and a frustration issue that is coming to the surface during this time, as people kind of connect dots or realize that like a lot of their work is kind of just existing for other people to benefit. And I think that there could be a change or some type of point of return that happens during this opposition of Pluto and Mars, because again, Pluto's never going to be in Capricorn again. So it could be like things don't necessarily change during this transit, but what happens will be some type of motivation or justification for inevitable change during Pluto and Aquarius. And again, keeping in account that we have two exact oppositions of this happening in Leo and Aquarius. So that's a very interesting, it's an interesting transit to be happening and accompanying Pluto through its final passage across this cusp. And I feel that it's not like the best sign for it. So to me, the fact that Mars is opposing Pluto on both sides of its final movement into the sign of Aquarius, there's sort of a quantum indication that the frustrations or the hard work or the energy or time or money that's been invested during the last 15 years of Pluto and Capricorn may have led to some type of frustrating result for many people. And because of that, there's some type of macro shift in global morale, or some kind of different way that people will begin to express their discontent, or the way that people will also talk about or communicate about what they've gained through their hard work, and maybe what they thought they would gain versus what they actually gained, being some type of new way that the collective consciousness believes in or does not believe in the validity of certain macroeconomic structures, or the validity of certain labor practices or housing philosophies, I want to call it. And we will really start to see these ideas emerging as Pluto really moves into Aquarius. So yes, everyone, let's talk about some dates. Okay, I want to talk about the 3 exact dates that this opposition occurs on. And that will be November 3rd, 2024, January 3rd, 2025, and April 26th, 2025. I'm going to talk about all three of these dates individually for a few minutes and how we can kind of maybe plan our next 6 months, 8 months, year ahead from now, taking this into account. So yeah, let's talk about that. So November 3rd, 2024, the exact opposition of Pluto in Capricorn and Mars in Cancer at the anaretic degrees. Okay, so this is a time to not take ourselves quite as seriously, maybe, or to take some of the pressure off a little bit. There's just so much pressure with this. This is very pressurized. This is definitely a point in a lot of people's lives where life-changing events happen, and where also we see the result of like the last 15 years of belief systems, the last 15 years of work, the last 15 years of life, okay? So try to not get too overwhelmed, discouraged, or invested in any of this no matter what, because it is what it is. We can't go back and change the past. Some people may get too liberal an idea about the past, like if only I would have done this differently, if only I would have, been different to this person, or had I done differently in 2015 or 2016 or 2018 or whatever it is, I wouldn't be facing this now. Try to not get into these like revisionist ideas. Careful about thinking differently about the past. Careful about also demanding something from the past that is not here. This is kind of just an avenue toward causing ourselves undue pain, towards restricting our path forward. Try to lean into the present, and yes, consider how you can use the resources that you now have, or how you can use these previous stories to better the situation, or to move forward with more capability in the future. Also, doing our best to find positive points in the past, or past things that have happened to us, past chapters that we've been through, that may be a positive justification for our path forward. Reminding ourselves with positive self-talk why we're qualified to move forward towards purpose, instead of maybe finding reasons why we're not, as there could be a pessimistic tendency with this opposition, like this is why I can't have a good life, or this is why I still have poverty, or this is why I still have to work a job that I don't want to work. Like that would be easy to find, but maybe we need to try to turn that on its head and find like why we can actually move where we need to move, or what formula could bring that about. Is there's a great ability to make realistic plans towards a better future, or also a great ability to really entrench in things that don't work as well. Okay, the next opposition that happens is actually exact on January 2nd, 2025, January 3rd. Yes, this will be at 1 degree of Leo and Aquarius. So this is going to be marking a very sizable shift in groupthink. Something in the month of January 2025 will be like a catalyst event for a major paradigm shift in the way that we think about the globe, in the way that we think about the collective consciousness, and some of these previous like rooted down tendencies or entrenched ways may be more directly questioned, or may have more direct resolutions here, but maybe not until this time. So there may be a need to kind of like keep on keeping on until January 2025, as we might really be feeling this coming on here even in October when I'm filming this of 2024, but we might not have the exact understanding of how things are changing yet. So it's like almost like waiting for a response, or waiting for a very specific kind of change. But yes, January 2025 will in some way change the board, and it's really going to lock in the next path forward and some of the experimentation phases that we've been going through throughout Pluto's transit on this cusp will begin to finalize, and there will need to be like a more precise way of moving forward that we have to really fill out. So yeah, taking that in context, maybe building up from like October to January, that could be a great time to just be processing and understanding, digesting it all. Like how would moving forward from here look? What is the most emotionally relevant, intuitively relevant way to move forward? And then letting that maybe become more concise and more material leading up to January. Now, the final opposition will be occurring on April 26th, 2025, and that's going to be in 3 degrees of Leo and Aquarius. Both Mars and Pluto are direct. So there's a major resolution here, as we've gone from 29 degrees in November to 1 degree in January to 3 degrees in April, with both being direct this time. So something will really be resolved by April, but honestly, every single matter that is kind of on the line between now and April may be unresolved until then, or there may be a way in which things just can't quite line up right, or things just can't quite move forward until all of the elements are accounted for, as there might be more elements to account for than people realized, or there might be quite a longer term trajectory that has chaotic elements like over the last 15 years that it takes a few months, even after January, to really come through and understand. Also, I feel that people get better results than they anticipated, or people actually have more than they realize, or their resources can be utilized in more powerful or more meaningful ways. Definitely make sure that you're being resourceful and that you're not, going on tangents or taking tangential action to achieve something you already have. That's been a very strong sort of like collective mania since about 2021 during the Saturn-Uranus squares, working really hard to achieve something you already have, or doing a lot of labor or perpetual cycles that are kind of a tangent. And I feel that we could have a conclusion of that over these oppositions. That would be one of the positives. But yes, definitely I would take these dates into account. November 3rd, 2024, January 3rd, 2025, April 26th, 2025, and try to give yourself peace during these times. Try to not be involved in a lot of risk taking, as we always have the accident indication with Pluto and Mars opposite. And definitely a lot of power plays and matters of hierarchy, matters of power dispute, especially with Leo and Aquarius axis, but also with Cancer Capricorn axis too. We are kind of resetting the board here, and a lot of what we think that may move toward may not be the result, as this is going to look very different in April of 2025. And for some people, a lot more positive than they expected, or a lot more empowered than they expected. But it comes through processing, resolution, and really understanding and integrating the last 15 years without fear, not falling into inverted kind of aggravated energy with the inward turn of Mars and Cancer, letting things come out, letting things release while also understanding them, okay, not disregarding them, but also not holding them within. As there may be something to really claim with Mars directly moving into Leo. Mars likes the sign of Leo a lot, and there's a certain self-empowerment process, or a certain strength that we're gaining through this more inverted time. But it may not be until late April or even May of 2025 before we see all of that come through, as we have a lot to process, a lot of unfinished business to get done during the Mars retrograde in Cancer, and just a lot to get off our chest, it seems, and a lot to integrate. So anyway, everyone, I hope this video about these oppositions of Pluto and Mars made sense. Comment below. Let me know what you think about these transits. Do you have anything to add, as this is very heavy and dense, but also offering a lot of healing and growth on the other side of it. Thank you so much for attending these live premieres every Friday. Hit the subscribe button below. And yes, there are free trials on Patreon. Come check out a free membership to get weekly forecasts, monthly sign-by-signs. I will be seeing you guys over there. Hopefully, come check it out. Much love. Have a great transit. Bye.